We're here in round number 11. Players playing both at 7 and 3. We're actually calling this one, this is white-red humans, I suppose, as opposed to tokens. It's missing the servo exhibition and outnumber you expect out of tokens. Still cards like Hanvir Garrison, though.
Okay. It's a little bit slower to get its tokens going, but on pace to be competitive against Major's deck for sure.
Maybe slow, but it will be Zahn onto the board first. It's a copy of Inventor's Apprentice. Michael Majors will match him. On the play, Majors gets to go first, but both his lands are Foreboding Ruins. Both have entered the battlefield tapped.
And Zahn's mana base, just the lands that he gets to play in his deck, they are just better than the lands that Majors gets. The Majors are more awkward in terms of coming into play tapped, and then Zahn also gets creature lands in the form of Needle Spires.
And Zahn getting very aggressive here. Turn 2 plays Thraben Inspector. That makes his Apprentice a 2/3, and Galvanic Bombardment's down. Majors is 1-drop.
When the first Galvanic Bombardment can kill an Inventor's Apprentice before your opponent's able to get it up to 3 toughness, that's a big win.
Well, Michael Majors will respond with Pia Nalar, the 2/2. She brings along a 1/1 Thopter token. Back to Syed. We will go for turn 3. His draw is a land. It's a copy of Needle Spires, though, so that's going to enter the battlefield tapped. He did have Hanvir Garrison at the ready. Not going to be able to play it this turn.
It's good news for Majors that'll be delayed a little bit.
A swing from Inventor's Apprentice deals 2 more to Majors. He's down to 16. And Zahn, with those remaining 2 mana sources, casts a copy of Smuggler's Copter.
One of the major strengths of the White-Red Humans deck is the combination of Thalia's Lieutenant and Hanvir Garrison. Zahn does have the Garrison in hand, but he's not yet produced a Thalia's Lieutenant, so that it is one thing that is going well for Majors here, but he is quite a bit behind on the board as it stands currently.
And Majors is going to swing with both creatures. Now, this is really a challenge to Zahn because on the board he has a great block. Going to crew Smuggler's Copter, and Majors is at the ready. Before blocks, he uses Unlicensed Disintegration on it. So Zahn loses the vehicle, takes 3, and then takes 3 more on the attack. He is down to 14.
It's a productive combat for Majors, though it used almost all of his mana. It's likely he doesn't have any other action with that last land either. So it did take his full turn here, and Zahn still has 3 power on the battlefield.
Right, so he'll return the swing. Majors back down to 13. Race staying pretty even between the players. For Zahn, here's the copy of Hanvir Garrison and leaves up 1 mana, maybe for something like a second Galvanic Bombardment.
Second Bombardment put him very far ahead. Currently his battlefield, that Garrison is the most threatening creature here. Majors really wants to have a second Unlicensed Disintegration, some kind of removal spell.
And this happens. Another Unlicensed Disintegration does hit for Majors. And before that, Zahn looks like he's going to go ahead and Galvanic Bombardment down the Thopter, so he does not take damage off the removal spell.
And without that Disintegration connecting for the 3 points, because Zahn removed the artifact, that was Majors just using 3 mana for a 1-for-1 kill spell. Not the most productive turn here. Yeah,
and Zahn now going to crank up the pressure. This is Gideon, ally of Zendikar. You talked about this may be the most powerful card in Standard.
It's definitely in contention there. It's one of the best Planeswalkers all time. It's not as good as, say, Jace the Mind Sculptor, but the fact that it can be in the same conversation, that's scary.
Yeah, it's going to start by making a 2/2.
Certainly once you're at parity in this kind of aggressive mirror where most of your cards are at a comparable power level, Gideon is just the best card in a matchup like this, especially when the board is this even.
We go back to Michael Majors. Zahn no attacks that turn. I think between his 2/2 ally and his 2/3 apprentice, he wanted to make sure that Gideon stayed safe. And Michael follows up with Bloodhall Priest. You mentioned this may be the most important card in Majors' deck.
Yeah, if Majors is able to empty his hand on the following turn, cast a couple of removal spells, clean some of the battlefield up, start triggering the Bloodhall Priest, then he can make significant inroads on this Gideon. But right now, the ball is in Majors' court. He has to turn this, he has to right the ship, get this Gideon off the battlefield.
Well, Gideon will plus. That turns him into a 5/5. It will attack at Michael. Long thought and decides to take the full damage. Michael will drop to 8.
There's some consideration for chumping with PNLR. In particular, if he thinks he might top deck another copy, if he has one in his hand already, that 2/2 is not doing anything for him.
Yeah, it looks like he does have one in his hand already. Now, on Zon's side, he plays out the rest of his cards. That's a copy of Smuggler's Copter and another copy of Inventor's Apprentice. Still has mana up to crack that clue token as well. And it is these kind of boards where Gideon just looks fantastic. He got a Zan cast it, got a 2/2, and now it says win condition, and that's all in one card.
He has an abundance of blockers as is, so he doesn't even really need to use the 0 ability, and that enables him to use the plus ability, attack for 5. Gideon becomes indestructible on that. Can't reduce its loyalty by blocking. Very powerful card. If he decided he needed to sit back, he has that option, but he's just able to be aggressive here.
Key to the City, and this is great. Michael's going to use Key to the City to discard his last card. That makes Bloodhall Priest unblockable. Now, Michael, out of cards in his hand, he'll attack with the Priest. It will deal 2 damage to the Gideon to take it down to 3, then deal 4 on the attack. Gideon is down, and this is all off one card.
Gideon solved that. That is a little sigh of relief for Majors here, but he's facing down a Smuggler's Copter that he has no blockers for, and the 2 Inventor's Apprentice, which are still 2/3s, and he just has a 2/2 on blocks.
Well, if Zon plays a creature here, the game's over.
And what a creature he has.
Yeah, this is Thalia's Lieutenant. It could have just been any creature that could crew the Copter would have been lethal here. Now, Thalia's Lieutenant is going to be more than lethal.
Yeah, Zon just has to make the attack.
Yeah. 1/1 counters on all the humans. Keep in mind that Knight ally is not technically a human. Crew Smuggler's Copter. Zon going to swing the team, and that will be the first game for Zon Syed and White-Red Humans.
And this matchup should get a bit better for Majors as we go into the sideboard. He has a number of creatures that just don't match up really well here.
Yeah, let's actually look at that sideboard for Michael Majors. So you talked about how some of his creatures, I assume cards like Bomat Courier, not really great here. His sideboard, 2 copies of Sinister Concoction, 4 Galvanic Bombardments, Key to the Cities number 3 and 4, 3 Lost Legacies, a Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, and 3 Transgress the Mines.
So the Sinister Concoctions, all 4 Galvanic Bombardments, those are going to be great to kind of slow Zon down, try to keep pace in the early game, try to go over the top with Bloodhall Priest. I also like Sky Sovereign a lot here. It destroys almost every creature in Zon's deck. It helps him pressure Gideon. That one almost assuredly coming in as well.
On Zon's side, he's got 2 Selfless Spirits, 2 Fragmentized, 2 Tears of Valakut, 2 Blessed Alliance, 2 Weaver of Lightning, 2 Chandra Torch of Defiance, and then a trio of Stasis Snares.
The card I really like out of the sideboard here is Blessed Alliance. Majors is a fairly one-dimensional aggressive deck. Both gaining life and forcing him to sacrifice an attacking creature are pretty powerful effects. There's a strong argument for Weaver of Lightning. I don't know how many creatures are easily killed by Weaver post-sideboard out of Major's deck, but it's probably going to come in, and if it looks bad in Game 2, you can always board it out in Game 3. Then Stasis Snare is totally reasonable here. It cleans up against Bloodhall Priest.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Zon has a lot of removal spells he can board in. Now, the question I would have is, that would turn him more into the control role in the matchup. Is that a place he wants to be here?
Generally, in any kind of aggressive mirror, if you don't feel like you are much faster than your opponent, you want to be able to at least pump the brakes a little bit, stop them from killing you. His deck is skewed very aggressively, so it's possible that he just sticks with his 4 Declaration Stones in the main deck, the 4 Galvanic Bombardments, goes that way. Might even just lateral shift the Galvanic Bombardments to these other removal spells, as you expect that Majors won't have a lot of the threats that just die to bombardment post-sideboard.
That's fair. Talk more about that in a second. First, we're going to tell you about our Season 1 schedule coming up here. So starting this weekend in Atlanta with Standard, we are beginning Season 1 on the 2017 SCG Tour. So make your way out and come join us as we go through lots of great events in lots of great formats. So after this event, we'll take a break, but we'll be back in mid-January. This is the Columbus Open weekend. That's going to be the first one. It is January 21st and 22nd in Standard. A week later, we'll be in Richmond to play Standard. We'll have our regional championships on the following weekend. Those will be Modern, the beginning of February. And then we'll take a break, but in 2 weeks after that, we have our first team event of the year as the Baltimore Open weekend. So what that is it's teams of 3 players. This is a new format for 2017. One player plays Standard, one plays Modern, and one plays Legacy. So you sign up with a team of 3, you play against another team of 3, and whichever team wins 2 of those 3 matches wins the round.
This used to be a mainstay format of old World Championships. It's something I've always wanted to play.
All right. We're going to run down the rest of the cities we're hitting here in the first half of 2017. We have Indianapolis for Modern. We have Dallas for Modern. April 9th, 8th, and 9th, you might want to put that on the calendar. That is our one Legacy Open of the first season. That's going to be in Worcester, Massachusetts. Other events will be back here in Atlanta late April to play Standard. We'll be in Louisville, Baltimore again, and Charlotte before we make our way to the Season 1 Invitational in Roanoke, Virginia. That's the end of June, so June 30th through July 2nd, Modern and Standard. Now, also with 2017, we have the playmats that we can give away. These are exclusive to the SCG Tour. They're some of your favorite arts on cards. For our Standard Opens and Standard Classics, we'll be giving away the art of Smuggler's Copter, which actually, a 4 of in both players' decks here.
A playable Standard card.
Yeah, one that I would expect to see this card be played in Standard for the next 2 years.
It is above average.
For Modern, we'll be giving away the copy of Aether Vial. This is a card which has been really, I guess, iconic of Legacy and some Modern decks for quite a while. This is the Kaladesh Masterpiece art as well. And for our Legacy Opens and Classics, we'll be giving away the art of Gamble. This is the Eternal Masters art. So pick these up. These are free with entry to any Season 1 Open or Classic. The playmat you get is the format you sign up for.
You can collect them all. Like Pokemon.
You could, yeah, you can. Turn 1, Michael on the play here. Game number 2 starts on a mountain. No play for Zahn. Once again, on the draw, he's first to the board with Thraben Inspector.
Yep, and Majors, I suspect he has much less of his early action in his deck post-sideboard here.
First play is a copy of Smuggler's Copter on 2 mana. We go back over to Zahn Syed. Draws Declaration in stone for the turn. And one of the things I was actually going to say I was interested in is what Zahn would do with his removal. A card like Declaration in Stone, while the most mana-efficient removal spell, also is the one that's card disadvantaged, and I wasn't sure if he'd be keeping those in.
It does not line up well against Smuggler's Copter, of course. It is a clean answer to Bloodhall Priest, which is the most threatening card that Majors is producing.
An attack for 1 from Zahn, no other plays. Looks like he wants to sit back and crack that clue token. For Michael Majors, it will be a second Smuggler's Copter and just a pass. This gives an opening for Zahn to get ahead on the board right now.
Yep, this would be a great window for Hanvir Garrison for sure.
The play is Inspiring Vantage as his third land. Thraben Inspector hits for 1. That drops Majors to 18. Can Zahn follow up? He sure can. It's a copy of Weaver of Lightning. That's out of the sideboard. You mentioned that this is a card that could be very good depending on how the games play out, and now we're going to get to see. Certainly against a board of 3/3 flyers, I have to say, I don't mind seeing this card.
Yep, great on blocking duty. Might not be the highest impact thing here, but it'll at least stop from Majors from doing too much on this turn.
And now some attacks, big attacks by Majors. He will play Inventor's Apprentice and Scrap Heap Scrounger, crew both of his copters, get some triggers.
Majors has a Fiery Temper in hand. It doesn't feel great to use a removal spell on Thraben Inspector, but with the Madness trigger, I kind of expect that to happen some point in this turn here.
Yeah, it's a free card, right? Yeah. So it might just be he goes at Zahn with it. The first discard is a Swamp. The second trigger draws him Bloodhall Priest, and that's a reason that Michael might want to just start madnessing out his hand.
Yep.
And that is exactly what's going to happen. Looks like he's going to discard that Fiery Temper to Madness. Madness, of course, the ability from Shadows over Innistrad. If you would discard a card, instead you may cast the card for its Madness cost. Fiery Temper is one of the Lightning Bolt variants. You know, we don't get tools like Lightning Bolt in Standard, where just 3 damage for 1. But if you can figure out a way to Madness it, to make yourself discard the card, you can have Lightning Bolt. And he will throw the Fiery Temper at Thraben Inspector.
There was some argument, if you wanted to hit Zahn with the Fiery Temper, and Weaver of Lightning looks very good here, You might just target the Weaver, because if he blocks, then great, the Weaver's off the table. If he doesn't, then you effectively tempered him anyway.
That's about the same as he said it's about the same as shooting him with it.
Right.
Michael goes for the creature, but now we see Zahn untapping for his 4th turn, and look at how the board. I mean, Michael, 2 Copters, a Scrap Heap Scrounger, an Inventor's Apprentice, and for Zahn, just a Weaver of Lightning.
Yeah.
This is very one-sided.
If we get to a position where Zahn can start casting Galvanic Bombardments or some such spells, then the Weaver can turn this around pretty quickly.
So Zahn will cast Declaration in Stone on the Scrap Heap Scrounger. Weaver will deal 1 damage to Inventor's Apprentice.
See if he has a bombardment to take care of the rest of the Apprentice.
Well, I think he does, but what Zahn's calculating is, does he want to do that, or does he want to wait until Michael tries to crew up one of these Copters? Between bombardment and that Weaver trigger, that is 3 damage. Zahn could get one of those vehicles off the board.
Yep.
You see, it's a close decision for him.
Kind of ask yourself whether or not you think Major still has creatures left in the tank. He did loot twice on his previous turn, so reasonable to assume that Majors has good cards left over in his hand anyway.
So, one of the things I really like flavor-wise of Smuggler's Copter is that the Smuggler's Copter loots. Because I feel like if you're smuggling, then you're looting something, right? It's really a flavor win.
I will defer to your judgment on that.
He does decide to hit Galvanic Bombardment onto the Inventor's Apprentice.
I actually...
No, really, yeah, I'm going to go back to it.
I failed my L1 flavor judge test, and it's kind of a sore subject.
I suppose smugglers are bringing illegal goods in, and while it's not the same thing as looting, I could see that you might call up the same guy for both.
What did I just say?
Hey man, it's part of the job. I feel for you. I feel for you, but this stuff's important. For Michael Majors, Lightning Axe discarding Bloodhall Priest. This deck's great.
It's an awesome draw here for Majors.
All right, so that is a 1-mana, deal 5. As an additional cost, discard a card. Well, he'll use Madness to discard his 4/4 into play. Then it crews a Smuggler's Copter, hits Zahn for 3, and loots again. So now it's 3 cards on Michael's side of the board. Smuggler's Copter, Bloodhall Priest to Zahn's 0. He's still up 3.
And Major's leftovers is PNLR, which can just crew up both Copters on the following turn.
Oof, that's a ton of damage.
If he's able to just draw a land or some 1-mana spell on top of that, he can be empty-handed for the Bloodhall Priest. This is a really good position for Majors. Not to mention that Zahn just has nothing going on. He'll have to cast some spells this turn if he wants to get back in this game.
Yeah, if he manages to draw a land and then somehow plays all his cards pre-combat, he will get that 2 damage off Bloodhall Priest. Right, so if when he attacks, he can have all his cards gone. Well, looks like it may not matter. A Declaration in Stone again from Zahn will turn that priest into a clue token. Zahn casts Pia Nalar. But you see, this is where that Declaration in Stone I was actually kind of concerned about in an aggressive mirror.
Yeah, Majors will be able to draw back up. He's already got a pretty good board position. On this turn here with this Pia, he'll be attacking with 2 Copters, which is already pretty far ahead of what Zahn is up to.
Yeah, Pia Nalar makes a Thopter. Both she and her Thopter crew Smuggler's Copters. They both attack. Michael, draw, discard, draw, discard. He's going through lands, hoping to get something good going on. 6 damage in the air will put Zahn down to 8.
And this 5th land here is fine because it'll enable him to crack a clue.
Yeah, that's the thing right about Declaration is that in these aggro mirrors, you generally have time to turn the clues back into cards.
Yeah, everything is just kind of trading in the early game. And Majors, he's had to do some trading here, but he still has significant board presence. So he's in really great shape. And here we see a Chandra coming down for Zahn, taking care of the Pia.
All right, the -3, she'll shoot that card down.
So now Majors will have to do some work to connect through that Pia plus Thopter token anyway.
Yeah, he doesn't have another creature to crew all of his Copters yet.
He'll get a couple looks with the clue plus draw step.
Right, so he'll crack a clue, draw. That's a mountain. That won't help. Draws another. That's Scrap Heap Scrounger. Okay.
Yeah, I can crew a copter.
Remember his last Scrap Heap Scrounger was hit by Declaration Stone. That's why we haven't seen Michael bring it back from the graveyard. It was exiled.
Yep.
But this one should be fine. And here is... Well, I was going to start by cracking another clue. Maybe he finds a better creature.
Unlicensed Disintegration might be better here. Would get rid of one of the creatures on Zon's side and take care of the Chandra outside of combat.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind just disintegrating, say, a Thopter.
Or even just go upstairs with the 3 damage and then chip in for 1 with your Thopter token.
So Michael will go with the Scrounger. Scrounger and Thopter will both jump inside Smuggler's Copters. They will both attack. I'm curious where they're going. With Zon at 8, Michael might ignore the Planeswalker.
Yeah, you know, he's got Fiery Tempers, Bloodhall Priest, Unlicensed Disintegration. Plenty of ways to close the game with your opponent at 8.
And yeah, both those Smuggler's Copters went at Zan. So he is down to 2. He gets to keep the Chandra. The Chandra will plus revealing a mountain.
And
But Major doesn't care.
Once Chandra's already used the -3, it's not worth very much in these aggressive mirrors. The +2 mana doesn't really matter. Just flipped over a land there. Shocking. Major's face doesn't matter. He's at 16, going down to 14. That's fine.
All right, and Michael Majors evens things up at 1 game apiece with Zan Syed. So red-black aggro this time takes it down. And it was interesting. It was, I think, 2 things going on here. One, we saw just how good Smuggler's Copter is.
I think we knew that one, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it. If you were thinking, you know, it's not that good in Standard, boy, did it look great.
Yeah, you know, this deck, it's triggering Madness with Fiery Temper, Bloodhall Priest. You have Scrap Heap Scrounger out at the graveyard, and it's really taking advantage of discarding the cards for value. And he flipped over a bunch of lands, whereas a deck without Copter would have gotten pretty flooded in that game.
On top of that, one of the things we saw was the ability of Michael Majors just to play this more controlling route. Kind of ride Smuggler's Copter to some card advantage and just recur kill spells on Zan's best creatures.
Pia and Alar producing 2 pilots is also very significant for that double Copter draw. That card was excellent.
Yeah, Pia just great on Kaladesh. Of course, would be good with vehicles.
Yeah, checks out.
Absolutely. Now, from Zan Syed, we did see a copy of Chandra, Torch of Defiance, that second game. Didn't actually, it was good as a kill spell. It did something afterward, though, wasn't enough to pull him back in. Now, maybe even instead of Chandra Nolar, he could have had something, if he goes to the pre-release, he could maybe upgrade that into Pandra Nolar. This is given away at the Aether Revolt pre-release, our custom playmat here from Star City Games, part of our creature collection. This is available now at participating stores. You can find a store near you that's hosting it at starcitygames.com/pre-release.
That's called a segue. I like that a lot. Definitely check out this mat. This creature collection stuff, super fun. This actually reminds me a lot of like Star Fox when I see this. You have these 4 animal creatures. I don't know if you ever played Star Fox 64 or maybe Star Fox for the Super Nintendo. I was definitely way more into the 64 version of Star Fox, but the Super Nintendo had way more fun sounds because they didn't actually say words. They just like riveted at you.
I liked Slippy.
Slippy was the worst.
He's great.
It does not surprise me that you're a Slippy fan.
The only thing he contributed is if Slippy was alive during the boss fight.
You got to know the boss's
health. You got to know
health.
the boss's health, which doesn't actually matter.
That was the one thing that stopped me from shooting Slippy down myself.
But I like it because, like, it's not even relevant, right? Because if you know the boss, that game's like, once you know the boss fights, you don't care about its health really. Like, you know what you're doing. You're just gonna kill it.
Right. Didn't really factor into the strategy at all.
Yeah, Slippy, man. That guy's great. He always was so concerned about how you were doing. Like, he'd ask if you were doing okay in the middle of in the middle of a fight.
No, I liked Peppy because he was like war buddies with your dad.
Yeah, he reminisced about the old times.
Telling you how great your dad was.
So for Michael Majors, playing in his home state here in Atlanta, what a good win could be from him. From Evans, Georgia, the 25-year-old, 6 open top 8s and a win. If he top 8s this weekend, it would be his second invitational top 8. He is one of the nicest players here on the tour. Aspires to own an Applebee's franchise someday, or as he likes to call it, Club Bees.
His first Invitational top 8 was the Season 2 Invitational this year. I'd be looking for back-to-back top 8s, in fact.
We actually have a fair. That would be interesting. We have both Michael Majors and Brad Nelson going for that accomplishment this weekend.
Yeah. You see Brad Nelson in the background here, just over Zan's shoulder.
So what was it? Falco was the other one you had, right? That was the third guy on your team? And you needed him to, like, unlock the secrets of the game.
You're right. He always knew some kind of shortcut. He was a jerk.
Yeah, he was always, you know. He was always the hardest to keep alive. So we start again. Michael Majors, this time he's on the draw. He'll have Inventor's Apprentice. Now it is Zan with Smuggler's Copter on turn 2.
No turn 1 play for Zan, though.
That's actually really uncommon for this White-Red Humans deck.
Yeah, he's got Inspectors, and Inventor's Apprentice. I suppose the list kind of stops there if we're not counting removal spells, but the deck definitely prefers to have the turn 1 play.
Well, here's an aggressive start indeed. Scrap Heap Scrounger turn 2 for Michael will make his Inventor's Apprentice into a 2/3, and he attacks, putting Zan down to 18. For Zan, he does have a Thrib Inspector. Wasn't on turn 1, but he'll take it on turn 3.
Yep, still Cruiser Copter here, right?
Looks like that's what he's going to do. It will step inside the Smuggler's Copter and drive it on over. Draws a card. Looks like an Inventor's Apprentice.
And he's got 2 more lands in his hand. Not clear that he's going to want both of those. So some reasonable choices to discard. If he's trying to build towards something like Gideon, or as we saw him have Chandra in his deck post sideboard here, keeping both of those lands would be wise.
Discards a mountain. And his follow-up will be a second copy of Smuggler's Copter. And what a role reversal. Last game, it was Zan who had the early pressure and Majors who had double Smuggler's Copter. It's going to be reversed. We'll see whether or not Zan can win the game. Michael won that last one.
Yeah. Major's deck is more able to benefit from the loot with these Madness cards. Though attacking for 3 flying is pretty good on its own.
I mean, but Majors will start very aggressive. He swings for 5, then plays Pia Nalar. You know, that card advantage is good and all, but if Majors just takes all of it, just attacks hard enough, it's not going to matter.
It is also very good for Majors here that he has a diversity of threats. He doesn't have anything where Zan could cast a Declaration in Stone or remove 2 creatures from the battlefield.
Right. We did see last game Zan keeping multiple declarations still in the deck. So Zan will now look to take a more defensive game plan. Here is Inventor's Apprentice. We'll see just how defensive. He's going to, actually not at all. He's going to go ahead and put these creatures into both vehicles. Both Smuggler's Copters fly over. Draw and discard twice for Syed. Discard looks like Hanvir Battlements.
If he could produce a 4th land and cast a Galvanic Bombardment plus Declaration, that would slow Majors down a lot. That would make the attack a lot better.
So this is interesting, and I'm gonna ask you about what you think of Zan's strategy here. So he's got Michael Majors. Right now, I believe it's 11 to 13, so Zan's actually up after that attack. His last 2 cards then were Fragmentize and Blessed Alliance. So he's doing this plan of actually just attacking and using removal spells.
Yeah, I think it definitely checks out an aggressive mirror. Certainly Blessed Alliance, that turns the tide significantly. He did discard his 4th land and has not found a replacement.
Right.
And you really want to escalate that spell.
At 4 mana, I mean, all the modes are good, right? Gain 4 Sacrifice, and with Smuggler's Copters, actually untapping 2 creatures is also really good.
Yeah, that can definitely come into play. That is currently the largest creature on the battlefield.
Is still Inventor's Apprentice. I guess Kurt Ape's a great card.
Yeah, that card was once on a ban list.
Oh, wow.
It was a very different time.
A swing from Michael Majors, it looks. He lost his Scrounger last turn to Fragmentize. And you might think, why would Zan Fragmentize something that comes back out of the graveyard? But I'm suspecting this game's all about tempo at this point.
Right. You know, Majors only has 3 lands on the battlefield and no creature to exile in his graveyard as of yet. No real issue taking that down. It just attacks for more than the Thopter token. Majors hasn't produced any other artifacts.
He puts Zan down to 8 and says go. Now Majors' hand is a tricky one here. He's got Scrap Heap Scrounger, Lightning Axe, I think Pia Nilar, and maybe even a second Lightning Axe.
Okay, so Axe to discard a creature and get a Scrounger back onto the battlefield is a huge tempo swing.
Oh, I like that a lot. You're not even really discarding at that point.
He would have preferred to have Unlicensed Disintegration just because of how high impact that card is, but this sequence is actually very significant. Unfortunately, he won't be able to produce a surprise blocker or anything with the Scrounger, though it's likely that...
Yeah, it can't block.
Right. Mostly it's just going to be flyers coming across anyway.
And this red mirror here is getting really exciting. Both players have decided to take an aggressive line here. No one's really trying to sit back and play control. They each believe they can win the damage race. And what I like about that is one of them is going to be wrong here.
Yeah. For Zahn, he would have that hedge if he's able to produce a 4th mana source and is able to escalate Blessed Alliance. That could really turn the tides, even if he does continue to attack, though it's not clear that he'll be able to do that.
Thraben Inspector will crew Smuggler's Copter. It will fly. A trigger, draw and discard. Did Zan hit the land? That's the big question. Looks like he did. We see basic planes in the hand.
All right.
You mentioned that. That's big here, right?
Yep, being able to escalate Blessed Alliance, because just the Edict, Majors, he has this 1/1 Thopter he doesn't care about. He could be bringing back a Scrappy Chandra that might not matter, but the gaining 4 life plus that's huge.
Big question for you here. So Zan's hand has the 4th land, Blessed Alliance, and Gideon Ally of Zendikar. He has 2 great options on 4 mana, and he may not have enough time to do both anymore.
Right, he's going to have to make a decision here.
This could change the game, and you can see on Zan's face right now, this is committing. Yeah, when your opponent loots away Gideon,
he's got something,
and plays a 4th land post-combat,
yeah,
you're thinking, what just happened? This is one of the best cards in Standard.
Right, he's telegraphing having 2 removal spells, or if Majors has a read specifically for Blessed Alliance.
Michael Majors will do the play we talked about. End step, he's going to cast Lightning Axe on the Inventor's Apprentice. He's going to discard a 2nd Scrap Heap Scrounger. But Majors is pretty wise here. If your opponent plays the 4th land and discards a Gideon, that's just huge alarms ringing, right? Like, why didn't he play that? He does something better. There may not even be something better. In
the modes here, actually better than the Edict is untap Thraben Inspector, crew up Copter, gain 4 life. Because it's just a 3/3 blocker, he'll get an extra loot and eat something in combat potentially.
Well, or I suppose don't pick the gain 4, right? Just do everything else. Michael's going to swing the whole team. And I guess because of 1/1 flyers swinging, we might not see sacrifice an attacking creature.
Yeah, I think that gain 4 is better than a removal spell for that artifact. Zan is at 8.
Yeah, unless Zan thinks he can actually kill all the creatures. If he suddenly says, wait, I'm going to be a control deck, kill your guy, block your guy, untap, kill your guy again.
Yeah, if he could untap and have something like Weaver Lightning plus removal spell, though the position he has right now doesn't look like it opens himself up to that. Part of the problem is he just has the 1 mountain.
So here is the Blessed Alliance escalated from Zan. He's going to untap Thraben Inspector. We'll wait to see what the other mode he chose was. Yeah, absolutely. Gain 4 life, he picked, and untap up to 2 target creatures. Not doing that 3rd mode.
But Major's hand has Lightning Axe and Fiery Temper.
Zan wasn't going to beat this hand anyway, was he?
No, this hand is excellent.
Well, like I said before, this was a race. Both players thought they could win. Only one of them was right, and that looks like that one person is Michael Majors. So Lightning Axe will kill Thraben Inspector in response and deal 3 damage just upstairs to Zan. So there will be no blockers. Yeah, 5 puts Zan to 5. There's 5 damage worth of attackers. That is game and match. Michael Majors and Red-Black Aggro moving on to 8-3.
And you saw Zan agonize a little bit about Alliance versus Gideon there. It's clear now that neither of those was a winning line.